Sometimes I struggle, as I have today, to find the right words to describe how much I love riding my motorcycle. Riding today takes me back to my 11-year-old self, that little kid whose parents gifted him with a tiny little mini bike, had a Briggs & Stratton engine on it. The kid whose world was transformed. Now that little kid is a grandfather after many, many years of riding, but the thrill is exactly the same. Exactly the same. Wow. I almost get emotional thinking about it, but honestly, I can't find the words to express how meaningful riding is to me, and for so many of us around the world. Yeah, it's weird. But others have effectively found those words. One such person is Melissa Holbrook Pearson, and especially from her 1997 book called The Perfect Vehicle. I have it here in front of me. So today, with your permission, we'll hear from some of the most eloquent motorcycle writing I personally have read. I'll have a link in the show notes of how to access your own copy of the book. But for now, let's relax. Pour yourself your favorite coffee or tea. Take a deep breath or two, and let's listen to these poetic words that describe our beautiful world of motorcycling. Thank you for joining me today. At precisely this moment, someone, somewhere, is getting ready to go for a ride. The motorcycle stands in a cool, dark garage, its air expectant with gas and grease. The rider approaches from outside. The door opens with a whirl and a bang. The light goes on. A flame, everlasting, seems to rise on a piece of chrome. As the rider advances, leather sleeves are zipped down tight on the forearms, and the helmet briefly obliterates everything as it's pulled on. The chin strap is buckled. The muffled weight of its own faint but permanent scent triggers recollections of hours and days spent within it. Soft leather gloves with studded palms, insurance against the reflex of a falling body to put its hands out in midair. Those go on last. The key is slipped into the ignition at the top of the steering head. Then the rider swings a leg over the seat and sits and keeps the weight on the balls of the feet. With a push from the thighs, the rider rocks the bike forward once again, picking up momentum until it starts to fall forward, down from the center stand. At this moment, the rider pulls a lever with the first finger of the right hand, and the brake pads close like a vise on the front wheel's iron rotor. At the almost instantaneous release of the brake, the bike rises slightly from the forks, which had telescoped underneath the heft. Now the 450 pounds of metal and fluid and plastic rest in tenuous balance between the rider's legs. If it started to lean too much to one side or the other, the weight that had lain low in a state of grace would suddenly assert itself into a manic bid to meet the concrete with a crash. Inherently unstable at the standstill, the bike is awaiting for a human to help it become its true self. Out there running, it can seem as solid as a stone. The key turns, the idiot lights glow. The green is for neutral, the red is for battery, another red is for oil pressure. The starter button on the right handlebar side, pressed, begins a whirling below. A simultaneous twist of the right grip pulls the throttle cable, and the engine bleeps and burps and then roars. There is contained fire within inches of the rider's knees. As the plugs of the two cylinders, posed at 90 degrees, forming a V, take their unimaginable quick turns in sparking a violent cocktail of fuel and compressed oxygen, the expanding gases forcing back the pistons, the machine vibrates subtly from side to side. A flip of the headlight switch on the handlebar throws the garage walls to either side into theatrical relief. The rider pulls the left-hand lever, then presses down with the left foot, and there's a solid clunk as first gear is engaged. In the neat dance that accomplishes many operations on a motorcycle, one movement to counter by another, an equilibrium of give and take. The squeezed clutch lever is slowly let out, while the other hand turns the throttle grip down. The bike moves out into the brighter world, where the sun startles the rider's eyes for a moment and washes everything into a continual pour. Out into the early morning streets, there's little traffic, for which the rider sends up a thanks. Today, on the way to a particular longed-for destination, while joy taken in the wheels, consuming revolutions, conflates with the desire to arrive, the journey becomes one of combined anticipation of its end and the pleasure in its duration. Riding is an occupation defined by duplicities. Those who ride are both alone and held tight in the fold of the elect. They draw together for protective warmth and take strange relish in needing to do so at all. The glue between these relative few who ride motorcycles can be tenuous. A rider traveling through a small town spotted by a rider who lives there is, because of this simple fact, invited home and given food and advice. A rider who is stopped by the roadside prompts another rider to stop and ask if any help is needed. That's the beauty of motorcycling, isn't it? Community. As the road leaves home further and further behind, it makes its own friendly advances to keep the rider happy. See, this is where you stopped the bike once and ate an apple pulled from the tank bag, and you took your boots off to feel the damp grass beneath your socks. This is the place your beloved brought you a handful of fireballs where you stopped at the gas station. And there's always the chance that the unexpected around the bend may turn out to be the danger to avoid, but a sight or smell that appears suddenly like a check in the mail. Now, with 100 miles on the clock, the going has taken on a life of its own. The rider is nearly forgotten what it means to sit anywhere else but on the seat. The eyes are swinging back and forth in unchanging rhythm like sonar. Brake, slow, lean, heat up. Brake, slow, lean, heat up. Again and again until it's a rocking chair. 100 freestyle laps of hand absently stroking the skin. The road's painted line, a vanishing point in reverse, is eaten up under the wheels like a video game where the landscape passes while the vehicle stands put. The wind is steady and reassuring on the chest. The rider now becomes susceptible to white line fever, which feels not so much like a need to continue on forever, but as if all options for anything else have been removed. It is simple. The power to go, the power to stop, are all reduced to a metaphor and made to fit into one small hand. The rider naturally fears this state, and keen to the perversity that always hides deep in pleasure, the rider, who is me, wants nothing more. You know, I'm so grateful for the talents of many writers such as Melissa Holbrook Pearson, who so beautifully articulate the way we feel when we go out for a ride. It's so hard to describe, isn't it? It's really just a feeling. It's hard to put into words. But again, when I go for a ride, like I'm going to go for a ride within the next hour, I'll once again become my 11-year-old self, that little kid who was just thrilled to be out on the road, alone, just taking it all in. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you'd like more information about Melissa's book, the link will be in the show notes. And until we meet again, I wish you peace and I wish you love.